applies to the sanguine. I know that, and also really applies to the choleric. I think maybe it applies to everybody. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was a really good one because I think that when we started working with him, my biggest challenge was time. Like, I would say my time mindset was a bigger issue than anything else. Mm-hmm. And so the better I've gotten about my time, there's more time, which is so crazy. Like, he'd say, if you don't have enough time to meditate for 5 minutes, you should meditate for 10. So I started meditating for 15, and amazing things started happening. So now this one says, your relationship with time will determine how you will experience time. Your relationship with time is not time. It's your filter or lens through which you experience time. We are constantly filtering, distorting, and deleting anything that doesn't correlate with our view of how things are. I think it's so profound. I feel like we, especially in our culture, have this need to do it all, to do all the things, and I think that this keenly applies to the sanguine in that she overschedules herself, and my temperament is, when I am not super balanced, it is split down the middle between choleric and sanguine, and then I'm just a bossy lady who has a lot of things on her plate. When I am balanced, I am a balanced choleric with enough sanguine to keep things interesting. I think. What would you say?
I think that's fair.
That's fair?
Yeah.
Like, I think I get more like, have this long list. Well, I can have this long list and be in a jovial, happy place, but often it's the list gets longer the grumpier I am.
Well, and I think what's funny is you tend to, like, I get uncomfortable about being late, but like
time bends for me.
Like, if I'm not reminding you what time it is, then that's a problem.
Yeah. And younger me would not have been okay with that. Yeah, right now me is okay with that because I'm like, oh, I need to hurry it up. I think that the pure sanguine, somebody that is mostly sanguine, severe unbalance would look like, could look like bipolar, could, like up and down, up and down, up and down. Also could look like severe ADD, and I don't think ADHD. I think, well, maybe, yeah, I suppose maybe. I think that as we balance, because you have to remember those unbalanced states are like major polarization of sort of what we're talking about. So it's not just can't be on time to anything, can't calm down her to-do list, can't or overcommits herself. It is like to the detriment of herself and others, and in such a way that she really can't function, even though she thinks she can. I think that there are moms that I know that really struggle with this, and they have times when they're much more balanced, and then I see times when they're sort of out of whack, and I think that what's hard is it's really easy to get out of whack. I think that I think about my own sanguine tendencies. And I am not a full-on sanguine, but ones that I know that are sanguine with maybe a little bit of choleric, or sanguine with just enough extra oomph to help them get things done. I think they really struggle. Because they feel like I do think they struggle from FOMO, fear of missing out. So they just do all the things. And I think that they, as a homeschooling mom, they struggle with, oh no, my kid's going to have FOMO. So they make sure that they're not only doing all the things, they're making sure their kid's doing all the things. And I think that the only moms that I really get pushback from with regards to slowing down their rhythm are moms that are like purely sanguine.
Yeah.
Because they kind of think that that's the way they have to be.
And I mean, and this is kind of funny, but I also kind of, when I think of the sanguine temperament, I think of in that movie Up, and the dog that talked, and he would talk, and all of a sudden, squirrel.
Right. Oh, totally.
And then it was off to.
It was off doing something else. Yes, because they sort of like they often don't finish things, so they'll get halfway with something, and then and it's not even often a conscious like, I don't want to finish this because it's too time consuming, or I don't want to finish this because it's, it's too hard. It's an unconscious like, well, I'm just going to do this other thing too. And what happens is this other thing gets to be more than this thing was. So this thing falls to the wayside, and this thing becomes the focus until this thing over here then is bright and shiny. And then they'd rather do this thing, and this thing falls to the wayside. So usually when I'm working with highly sanguine moms, I ask for a list of all of their undone projects. I had a sanguine mom one time that I was working with when I lived in Utah, and I said, and she was an avid knitter, and I said, how many undone knitting projects do you have, like ones that are not finished? And she sat there, she was really quiet, and I said, are you there? And she said, yeah, I'm counting. And I was like, wait a minute, what? She had like 12 undone projects. Mm-hmm. And so we were talking like every week, and I said, well, your job this week is to either finish or take the needles off of and roll back up the yarn of 10 of those. And she was like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. I said, well, if we're going to move forward and we're really going to help you finish things, we have to have some deadlines to finish things. I think sanguines do their best work when they have a deadline. And it can't be far out their deadline. It has to be like this week. Because I think otherwise if it's far out there, then they will just forget about the deadline. Yeah.
One thing we've had conversation about when it comes to sanguine is I think about when we've been in social situations, and there's been people where I've been in a conversation with, and then like
in the middle of the conversation they go and
mid-sentence they're like gone.
They're gone.
And then as a phlegmatic, then I avoid that person in the future because it's like, if I have to try that hard to keep their attention, it's not worth it. So I'm just not going to talk to that person.
Because yeah.
But there's a few.
Because he's a quality time guy. So he gets invested.
Because we've had social situations where afterward I go, am I just a boring person?
I know, no. We've had this conversation where I'm like, no, you're not boring. Yeah, Peggy says, I always say, please give me a deadline. I work better under pressure. I think sanguines do work better under pressure. The sanguines in college and high school were probably like, either didn't need to study or study the night before. They love cramming. And if they can stay up until 2 a.m. and cram, even better. Yeah.
Well, it's like in college, I was trying to enter the film program.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a kid the application was, there was 60 pages worth of material that you had to come up with in order to get in. And I wanted to get in, so I spent my summer working on it. But there was this kid that he tried to put all that together the night before. He ended up not getting into the program, but I was like, that would have stressed me out.
Oh, yeah. So I think that as a parent, they often struggle because they forget why they punished somebody. Mm-hmm. And so that child knows that's your weakness. So they'll play up on the fact that she's going to forget why she grounded me, especially the older child. And they know they can't trust that you will remember. And so there was a time when I was far more, my sanguine side was playing far more than my choleric side. And I would just write down, grounded, Jacob, and here was the reason. Mm-hmm. Grounded, Harry, here was the reason. Because otherwise I'll forget. And I don't want to forget. I think that what tends to happen in our parenting is we often are the fun parent, but we can also be like the mean parent if it's not going our way. And that's like mean sanguine coming out. That's definitely not mean choleric. Because the choleric comes from a place of, we need to have this all done because I'm the leader and I say so. And the sanguine's like, we need to have this all done because I didn't get it all done and now it's a mess. And that's a different place, a much different place. I think that as a sanguine mom, if that's you, usually you have a secondary. It's almost, I see phlegmatic with a sanguine side way more than I see sanguine with phlegmatic side, because they kind of don't go together. Like Eric is phlegmatic sanguine because he can be placid, but he also can like go and have some fun. It wouldn't work the other way because the sanguine is always bouncing around. So the things that make him phlegmatic would not come out as much, I would think, if it were sanguine with a dose of phlegmatic. It's okay if you think that's what you are. I'm just telling you where I come from the years of observation that I've been doing. In temperament is sort of like a weird pet peeve of mine. That's kind of how we met. And so, not pet peeve, like pet project. So I think what I tend to see most is sanguine melancholy. I think what tends to happen when you are the sanguine melancholy, because this is what we have into our children. Just do this a little bit more. That helps. The sanguine melancholy, if you are sanguine melancholy, you are sanguine, but you might have a lot of sadness going on in your life, and you know, if you are sanguine first, melancholy second, you're probably struggling with the empathy piece a little bit. You might be able to get sad really easy, and get sad at the drop of a hat with regards to a commercial or something that was sad, but those around you, you will likely struggle with empathy. Sanguines struggle with empathy more than they're kind of akin to choleric struggling with empathy, and it's not because they don't care. It's because they forgot why you were sad. You know, it's more like, what were you saying again? Like that, because they were like already in their head doing 15 other things. We have 2 children that are split on these temperaments. And what was interesting is one was sanguine with a dose of melancholy when she was growing up, while the other one was melancholy with a dose of sanguine. And as they became adults, that flipped. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I definitely think Jacob is much more sanguine with the dose of melancholy now. And Eleanor is much more melancholy with a dose of sanguine.
What's funny is growing up, I'd always get on her case because she would leave these glasses of water.
Oh man, everywhere in the house.
And they were never empty. And there would always be like this much water, and I'd find them all over the place. And I thought someday she's going to have her own place, and there'd be like cups of water everywhere all over the house because she started cups of water and didn't finish them and walked away.
She was like the inspiration for, y'all have one water bottle or one cup. Well, you can't have anything else.
Because I remember we had this water bottle, and I thought, I'm going to collect all this water over a week and see how much like I
She did not appreciate that.
She was not happy.
She was not happy.
The melancholic side kicked in, and it's like, you're shaming me.
Yeah, don't shame me. Yeah,
but
for sure.
I was like, it was driving me up a tree because I was the one picking up all the cups everywhere.
Best ways to parent a sanguine child, or if you are sanguine yourself. One, I would, you definitely want to keep a to-do list. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. And you like making lists if you're sanguine, and because you like planning, not a big deal at all. Like, you are expert planner. You know, you're probably like on my case about where the heck is the Planning for Peace journal. Mm-hmm. It's coming. And you are also probably in a place where you've got it all planned, but your struggle is the follow through. And so, you know, I tried to build things into the Planning for Peace journal that were like little boxes where you checked it complete. Because I know that it's necessary. It's necessary to have that completion box. If you are a sanguine mom or you're parenting a sanguine child, you not only do you want to keep the to-do list, I would say you want to keep 2 lists. You want to keep your big long one, the one that has everything on it, and then you don't want to pull more than 6 things a day off of that master list to your daily to-do list. Because what happens with the sanguine is she thinks she can do more than she really can. And see, the choleric in me is like, oh, watch me, I'll still do it anyway. But the sanguine will just forget. And so, or she'll decide that the list is not fun enough, and she'll go do something that's not on the list. So you want to be very, very, very mindful of which those things are that you pull from that master list. So the master list is the list that you've constantly got going. And maybe the master list, you know, has everything that's household that needs to be done, plus everything that's school that needs to be done. So when you're doing your morning meditations or your morning prep, or preferably the night before, you're pulling those 6 things off and you're putting those on your to-do list. And then you're not doing anything until you get those done. And if you say, oh, I got to noon and I realized that I needed something that was on the list, unless it's an emergency, leave it until tomorrow, because the idea is that you will get really good at knowing what your priorities are. And when you know what your priorities are, then you will be much more effective at not being, oh my gosh, the parrots are really loud. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Not being, not jumping all over. And so you'll want to make sure that you pick those 6 things, and that those are the things that govern your day. And that's independent of your rhythm. I think sanguine moms will often be the ones to tell me, I just can't keep rhythm. So what I would say to that is, you really need to do the actual rhythm chart, because the actual rhythm chart will give you it'll give you a good picture of where your rhythm actually is. So you might think you don't have any, but when you do the actual rhythm chart and you're tracking, then what starts to come forward is what your rhythm really is, like what your natural rhythm is. And that's really what we want for everybody. But I think sanguines, especially because you think that, oh, well, I just like to fly by the seat of my pants. Well, the chart will actually show you, do you? Like what things are taking your time. They're generally not fun things, is my guess. My guess is you're stopping to do one thing because it wasn't interesting enough, and so you're jumping to the next thing. And you really want to see this habit in yourself. And there's enough sanguine in me that I can easily tell when I am like starting to get bored with something, and I have to stop and go, nope, gotta finish, push through. Mm-hmm. And start to stop yourself. So that's, as you become balanced, you're seeing it in yourself, and you have to stop yourself then and move forward. That doesn't mean you're sort of being untrue to your temperament. What it means is you're starting to balance your temperament, because a sanguine that's balanced has a lot on her plate, loves to be the life of the party. She's generally extroverted, not introverted. Generally, I'm not saying always, but generally, she loves it all. She loves to throw a party. She loves to, hang out with friends. She loves to do all of those things and have a really long to-do list. But when you balance, you'll be able to say no when you need to say no and still be the life of the party. I think that's really, when I'm working with moms that are really struggling with that, they are, they're like, but I love this about me. Everybody loves to come to my parties. Everybody loves to, to do things with me. Yes, everybody does. But I'm going to tell you the really hard truth. Nobody trusts that you follow through. Because they don't trust that you will finish. And so you want to really work on that piece, because balanced would mean that you can be the life of the party and you can finish those projects that are on your plate. And that takes conscious effort. And, where the subconscious mind governs so much of what we do, like 95% of what we do, then what you really have to do is get conscious to what you're doing. And that's where the actual rhythm chart really comes in. Because when you're conscious for what you're doing, or conscious of what you're doing, Dana says, truth hurts. Yes, it does. But when you're conscious of what you're doing, and often they'll be like, I don't want to know. Yes, you do. You need to know. If you want to balance, you need to know. So when you're conscious of what you're doing, you see this chart then in front of you, you can look at it and go, oh, I actually do have some rhythm that's naturally in me. What things are really important here that I actually did, and what things aren't. When you dial into what things are really important, then it helps you to sort of balance overall.
We've talked about, since we both, sanguine is most likely our secondary.
Secondary, yeah.
We've talked about how there's been situations in the last year where we've allowed drama to distract us from things that we didn't want to think about. And then we were in a drama place because we didn't want to think about these other things that we really could do something about. And we got focused on the thing that we couldn't do anything about.
Right. I think that, that's the first thing I ask myself is, am I being distracted by this because I don't actually want to deal with the other thing?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I think that, I think that's very true. I think that when you do the actual rhythm chart, then you really see, like, where's your time going? What are you spending it on? And if your desire is to have quality time doing things you really want to do rather than jumping around doing things you don't want to do, then I think that that's sort of your wake-up call to be able to see it all. I think that if you're a highly sanguine parent and you have choleric children, you have children that don't mind you. Because I think they don't trust you. I think they don't trust that you're actually going to follow through. And so I think that the follow through is the important part there. And that's where you have to like ask yourself, am I really done with this task? Like stop and get conscious. Am I really done with this task? And if you are, then walk forward. But if you're not, then find a way to finish the task. I think often when I'm dealing with or working with, I don't want to say dealing with because it's like I have to deal with you. No, it's what I'm working with. When I'm working with highly sanguine moms that are struggling to keep rhythm, even if they have done this work, my first question is, why is it not safe for you to have rhythm? Where in your background? Because what happens is if you're unbalanced, no matter what your temperament, there was something that happened in your background, in your past, and it could be in your way distant past. You could have been 4 years old when something like this started. And it starts this pre-programming of, well, it's not safe for me to slow down. Mm-hmm. It's not safe for me to rely on people. It's not safe for me to be secure. It's not safe. So then it starts this programming of like moving forward and it snowballs. And then as an adult, you look like you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off all the time. And you probably feel like that too. My guess is that you feel very much like you might have heart palpitations because you're, when you're in your worst state, you might like really be struggling with that. I would say that, that's probably like heart issues is probably something that really affects the unbalanced sanguine. I was thinking about diseases the other day. And which diseases probably befall the different temperaments. I would love to do a study on that. I would love to see it. Let's see. Jacqueline says, how do you finish the task if you are constantly interrupted? I end up giving up because I can't stay focused long enough. So I would look at what task you're trying to do and who's interrupting you. So if you're trying to do a task that is definitely you need more focus, then don't do it when you have children around that are going to interrupt you. I think that's a hard one. Caitlin says, I love to plan and dream and set things in motion, but I lack the piece that stays mindful and follows through. So when you're working to sort of override that subconscious programming, and again, it is subconscious programming that keeps you from actually following through. Because your balanced state looks very different than your unbalanced state. Once you can sort out where that subconscious programming came from and sort of bless it and send it on, I would figure out where that came from. Like, where is it that you are unable to, like, where in your background did that happen where you start that subconscious programming started where you're not safe to finish something or you're not safe to have rhythm. So figure that piece out. I want to caution you in that once you dig, if you don't already know, like right now going, okay, I know these things in my childhood are what probably contributed to this. Then beware that as you start to dig some of that poop up, it's not going to feel great, but that as you move forward with it and you can sort of forgive that situation, see it for what it is, start to work to override some of that subconscious programming. And, it might just be a simple mantra that is, I am so happy and grateful that I can get the things done that are on my list and not feel crazy. And, you know, just something very simple that you're like then saying to yourself over and over. You might write it down, plaster it everywhere, say it in the morning. It helps to write something to help like override the subconscious. So write it a couple of times every morning to sort of get your conscious mind in the space of this is what feels good. It feels good to be to be more stable. It feels good to be in a place where I'm not running crazy. It feels good. And then you have to sometimes convince yourself, because I do think that there are a lot of sanguine moms that are like, I love being this busy. But you really don't. You really don't, because you might love being this busy, but then you hate what falls, like what happens. You know, if you love being this busy, but everything's fallen to hell in a handbasket at home, or your kid's behavior is all crazy, or your relationship with your partner is not great, then you don't really love being this busy. You have to take a deep breath and go, okay, wait a minute. What part of this do I love? Like, is it the fact that when I throw a big party, my need to be significant, like, is boosted because everybody loves me and it's a good time? And are there healthier ways that you can regularly get that piece of significance rather than diving all in and feeling like you have to, you know, do it all? Yes, Allie says affirmations and tapping. Very good. Affirmations, I think, are really good. Affirmations, though, you can't say an affirmation when you're in a bad place because it affirms the wrong feelings. So the universe doesn't feel what you say or hear what you say. It hears what you feel. So, and you can insert God into that rather than universe if you'd like. But when you send that out, you better be in a good place of, yes, I feel so good that. Because if you're not, guess what? The universe doesn't hears that. The universe hears what you feel. So you want to be in a good feeling place about that. Sanguines are happy, I think, most of the time. Most of the time. Unless they have melancholy secondary, then I can easily switch into that. But
yeah.
I would say the most combinations that I see are either sanguine choleric or choleric sanguine. I see those the most. And often what happens when we balance a mom that is sanguine with a dose of choleric is her choleric seems to diminish, and the beauty of the sanguine steps forward, and she is, you know, she can see that, yeah, I can be the life of the party, and I can have a balanced home life. Becca says, having a good-sized sanguine streak and knowing that I am teaching a very sanguine child has me worried about teaching block lessons. I'm worried if we're both going to flake out in the middle of everything. You know, I think that that's a valid concern. And so I would build things into your blocks so that you have signposts and you take plenty of days off. You know, I take about every 10th day off. And when I say off, I don't mean like, oh, we're going to go to the library or the museum and we're going to study this. Nope. Off. Like, we're usually at Disneyland on that off day or at the beach, like for the whole day. So that will help you. That taking plenty of breaks will help the sanguine stay more focused and sort of keep you in a place of not feeling like you're crazy or feeling like you have to switch gears because you feel like this is boring. I remember, was it Ellie that you at the R2 Builders panel? And she was like,
she was a little kid.
She was little. She was like, Soraya said, Dad, this is boring.
Well, Soraya would sit there and try to figure out how to do it with cardboard.
She would. Anna Catherine says, melancholic sanguine is that comment. I see that one. I see it. I saw it in my own house. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely, and I think the melancholy sanguine tends to look more ADHD than because they get really fixated on something. And if that something pulls that melancholy out, they can just stay there. Mm-hmm. And it's harder to pull them back. I was thinking from a man's perspective, and you see a woman running around like a chicken with her head cut off. And we're not going to name any names because all of those people watch our videos. So shh. What would you say? What would you say from a dude's perspective? Like, what does it look like?
Well, I mean, I've seen situations that, I mean, and you can probably think of some too that ended in divorce for whatever reasons, because the one partner got off and got involved in all these different things.
Right,
and
I'm thinking
other
that.
one just ended up like being left behind, or a fourth thought.
Or like, well, she's not paying attention to me, or he's not paying attention to me, so I'm just going to go over here and have a good time because she's off doing her own thing.
I mean, we joke about the mom and Mary Poppins that's out fighting for suffrage while the other stuff's going on.
Right. She has no clue because she's off doing her own thing. She's off, like, that's exciting to her.
Yeah, I mean...
While what's going on with her children isn't.
I mean, and that's something we've seen taken to an extreme.
Right.
And there's, people like, how are they still married? They like live separate lives because the other one, at least one of them is doing.
Like, it doesn't seem like it matches
Not that the things they're doing are bad.
Right. It's just that they're continually allowing themselves to be pulled away and doing something else.
I mean, if you have things in balance and a proper rhythm, then those things you can do those things. Because they're not bad things necessarily.
No, I agree. When you can sort of like pull them apart and pick one thing to do at a time. One thing at a time. I think the sanguine mom probably has 16 books on her nightstand. And she's read 2 chapters out of each one. Maybe not even 2 chapters. So if this is you.
I've got all sorts of things out that you can't see.
There's a lot of sanguine in Eric. Y'all don't see that.
But things I've started and not finished around here.
I only have 2 knitting projects going right now. No, 3.
Well, it's like...
One I'm about to pull out because it's not going to happen.
Well, it's like Sam sometimes asks about all these games and we're like...
Finish the one you're on.
It's like, no, that's not fun. I want to
finish it.
I want to be able to skip from this to that, the other.
I see it in Soraya a lot because she's definitely got some like ADHD stuff going on, and she definitely is like molded from my mold in a lot of ways. But I see the sanguine more often, and I go, no, let's balance that, please. Let's work on that one together. I think you have to, when you're parenting a sanguine child, they're going to make you crazy if you're not sanguine. If you're sanguine, then the two you're going to have fun together, and then you'll be like, oh, wait a minute, we did lessons today. We need to go back and do that. So you have to be the more balanced one because otherwise, it's going to get out of control. I think that what needs to happen is that you need to be able to see it for what it is, work to balance it within yourself, and then as you've worked to balance it within yourself, then you can work to help balance your child. And there are, like I said, there are tricks. So get up and get a drink of water if you're doing something that's a long haul kind of project. And I have to do these things myself because there's enough, like the choleric in me gets me like started and going and keeps me determined. But once I get to a lull in something, the sanguine in me will be like, you know what, this over here will be more fun. Wouldn't it be fun to just sit and bullet journal? Nope, it's not. I have to stay going. So, you want to have tricks for up your sleeve, Maybe it is you get up and take a deep breath and get a drink of water and then come back to it. Jump up and down like 10 times, like Tony Robbins style, and get really excited about what you're doing. And that really helps like pump you up. Your kids will think you're nuts. So there are tricks like that I would suggest you put into place so that you can get things like you can have better follow through. Rewarding yourself. I know we sort of live in this culture right now where nobody wants to reward children for the sake of rewarding. But there are certain children that need the reward. The high, like, I need the reward person is going to do better when she sees the carrot at the end. And that has to be, like, that's something that's in her life. Like, what's in it for me? How do I get to the end? And so I don't think it's a bad thing. I think reward for the sake of rewarding, is probably not a great thing. But I think the person who came up with the rewards for children is bad is probably a melancholy. That's bad. We shouldn't always have rewards. Well, sometimes you need them. Sometimes you need them. So I would reward yourself when you get through things. A reward doesn't always have to be an external. It can be an internal thing. It could be, affording yourself 30 minutes or whatever of, I get done with this and I can spend 30 minutes doing this over here. So when I look at like these hard and fast articles, sometimes I'm like, y'all don't know anything about temperament, the parenting stuff that comes up. I think that sanguines can be very good delegators. It's when they try to do all of the projects, like the mom that's like, I can't get anybody to do it the way I need to, so I'm just going to do it all. Don't do that. Don't do that. I think, and that's probably more a sanguine choleric mom, because the choleric's like, I need it done my way. It has to be done my way. And I can't get people to do it, so I'm going to do it all myself. I've been guilty of that. So you have to shift your expectations a bit and be okay with somebody else doing the tasks. But I think where the sanguine needs the reward is in the long game. So you can't reward yourself for every single thing you do, but you can reward yourself for staying on task. You can reward yourself for finishing this project. And that after a while, I don't think you need the reward. You won't need it after a while because you get better at playing the long game. The more sleep you get, the better you are. The less likely you are to be a little crazed. So I would aim for 8 if that's at all possible. I'm in the part of my parenting career where that is possible. There was a lot of years where it wasn't. So get as much as you can because that will help you not feel crazed like that. I would look at supplements for sure. Let's see, what else does she say? Trying to wake up early, go to bed early, meditate for 15 minutes in the morning, read my kindy stories to be ready and work on my handwork. Just doing this feels like I need such a push, but I am definitely up and down, off and on balance. Okay, so first I would say build one thing at a time. She says 9 p.m. is so hard to make happen. It pushes to 10:30 most times. I would really work on sleep. Sleep, I think, is big for you. Really big for you. And I think that once you can get sleep under control, it will help drive everything else. So like doing the best you can for that. The reason why you push it to 10:30 is because you think you have these things that have to get done. And I'm going to tell you a secret. Ready? It's not really a secret. There's always going to be things on your list. That's the secret. So you have to be really good at saying, this can wait until tomorrow. And push things off until the next day. You don't have to get them all done at once. You will always be chasing the wrong thing if you are chasing finishing the list. So that's why I say 6 is optimal. And then moving on. She says, I'm totally just watching TV, nothing getting done. Well, I understand that. I love Netflix except for the next show starts in 13 seconds. I don't like that part. Well, sometimes I like that part, but what we ended up doing is we ended up picking like 2 nights a week where we watch our shows. And then we try to start. That means you got to get your kids in bed on time. We try to get it if we want to watch 2 or 3, then we have to be done. Eric is really good at going, nope, it's time for bed. And I'm like, bud, really? Just one more? And he reminds me how tired I will be the next day. And then I'm not a kind person when I'm really tired.
Oh, because those shows have a cliffhanger, and then it's like automatically cues up the next
Every
one.
show has a cliffhanger. That's the whole idea of marketing a show. Every show does. Like Soraya will be like, I gotta watch another episode. She watches very little TV, but when she does, she's like, it ended in a cliffhanger. I'm like, they all end in a cliffhanger. You can't watch the next one. Sorry.
And then it gets into the season, and the end of the season is a cliffhanger. It's like, you're just going to have to be okay.
You have to wait. Caitlin says, try to find things that care for you and feed you instead of just checking out and being distracted before bed. Agree. So, like, we used to have the TV in our room. We don't anymore. And at first, when the Roku died, we were like, oh, we should just replace it. And then we just decided not to. And 1 month turned into... Gosh, how long has it been out of our room?
Oh, the remote broke.
That's right.
And it costs more to replace the remote than it was to just buy a new one.
So
I was like, oh, never mind.
What was it's been probably almost a year. It's been probably a year since we have been without the TV in our room, and I actually am really liking it. Doesn't keep us from watching something occasionally on the tablet, but it also gets us it gives us it's easier to have a defined bedtime that way.
There's some Netflix seasons that I've watched that it took me 6 months
to get through.
Yeah. It's like I might have watched one 2 a month or something until I got
But
through.
you're Mr. Long Suffering. So you're okay with that. The sanguine in me is no, I gotta know what happens.
I've got multiple things that I've started that eventually I'll finish, but it might be months until it's done.
Yeah.
So I'm not in a hurry about most things.
All right, that's okay. So I'm hoping that that this feels good and that you got a lot out of this. I'm sure that I left some things out because this conversation is a long conversation and can actually go on for hours with regards to each temperament. I would recommend that if you are thinking, feeling, willing member, dive into the temperament. Thank you, Kelly. A few minutes before Instagram shuts off, dive into the temperament mom lesson. And get it. Just study it. Study. I think studying your temperament is one of the best pieces of inner work that you can do. And I think that's all.